Okay, so I have been laid up in a pillow fort for the last 2 days because I slept wrong and this side of my neck and this shoulder just kind of aren't. They don't want to work anymore. I've got some amount of movement back and I have the grip strength back in my right hand, which is very handy. But yeah, I've been feeling quite sorry for myself. And because I'm a responsible adult, I'm self-medicating with alcohol. I'm about this far through this wine drink. So going back to the form I posted a little while ago about what people want to hear me rant about, someone put toxic masculinity in there, and Christ, that is a big subject. I'm not sure I even have the vocabulary to describe what toxic masculinity even is. Least of all after this much wine. I'm sure you can all Google it, but for the sake of having a working definition for which I'm going to base my rant on, no, I can't do it. Toxic masculinity at its core is essentially, I guess, it's the social rules regarding what it is to be masculine and social rules, sarcastic quotation marks, what it is to be masculine and the way you have to perform masculinity to be seen as worthy or as a man or indeed a woman. I'll get to that. Let's just go with that as a working definition for now. That's not to say that everything masculine is toxic and not everything toxic is masculine. I think it's very important that when people understand that when people are talking about toxic masculinity, we're not talking about... Hello, Sansa. Thank you. When people say toxic masculinity, we're not saying that being masculine is being toxic. We are saying that there are some elements of masculinity that are toxic. Not that being a man is a bad thing. Men are pretty cool. I like men. This cat is... yeah, cool. Thanks, kitten. You're helping. So there's a real broad definition to work with there, and it really, really bugs me. Toxic masculinity is... it comes out the most often in behaviours that I see in men around me as essentially the denigration of anything that seems feminine. So to be viewed as unmasculine is to be viewed as feminine. And to be feminine is to be lesser. So that's misogyny. That's... these people view femininity, feminine traits, and feminine pursuits as lesser, worthy of derision. And so they seek to be the opposite of that. And if a man does not meet the criteria of doing masculine things, then they're girly and they need to be correctively punished or shunned in a lot of ways. But certainly in the formative years, violence amongst girls and boys is very lopsided. Girls are more likely to shun people in their social group who don't conform to their standards, and boys are more likely to be violent. I'm not sure that actually says anything about gender differences in their ability to inflict violence. I think that says a lot about the society that we live in and how people are raised in certain genders and the expectations that are put on them, because physical differences of strength notwithstanding, men and women are both pretty equally capable of violence and destruction. It's just if you're going to be violent as a woman, you tend to either be cornered or very, very sure that you're going to win, because of the physical disparity and the sexual dimorphism between the sexes, I guess. It's difficult to talk about sexual dimorphism without resorting back to sort of binary gender and sex, which is not a concept I actually have much time for, but I don't know how to express it in other words. Very difficult. But yeah, so, you know, when people kill their husbands or kill their wives, it's disproportionately, you don't get many female murderers, but the ones that do get harsher sentences than men. Men that kill their wives get sent to prison for less time, on average, than women who kill their husbands. And there's one main reason for this, which sort of spirals out into other subjects, and that is when men kill their wives, it's normally in the heat of the moment, crime of passion type deal, right? When women kill their husbands, it's premeditated, usually. And the act of premeditating a murder is what means that a woman who kills her husband is going to get a harsher sentence, because she's sat and she thought, right, I really want to kill this fucker. How do I do that without putting myself in danger? How do I do that without putting my children or my family in danger? How do I remove this man from my life in a very, very permanent way without hurting myself? Whereas in the heat of a moment, a woman cannot be assured that suddenly turning around and smashing someone with a hammer, someone who is more likely to be bigger, stronger and tougher than you, that may not succeed, and it may get you hurt and killed in the process. Just how shit goes. So yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, back to toxic masculinity. Yeah, bullies are weird, and certainly bullying and harassment in your formative years, like, pink's a colour for girls. You're a boy, you can't like pink, therefore you're a girl, and we're going to hit you for it. Strangely enough, these children are probably the ones who have been taught by their caregivers that hitting girls is wrong, but they will hit a boy for liking something that they perceive as girly. There's so much to unpick there, and it's so fucked up. And it's coming back to the way that people teach their children to hate women. They teach them that women are pitiful, that their likes and pursuits are frivolous and not worth anything in an intellectual or in any sort of valuable sense to the world, that they are fragile, that they can't stand up for themselves, and that to be like a woman is to fail as a man, and that's really fucking depressing. Yeah, and that's toxic masculinity. It's teaching people. Cat does not want the phone to be propped up there. Yeah, pink was considered a male colour because it was very, very, it's a very strong colour. Very strong. Bloody hell. But that's just an example, right? It also ties into the homophobia thing. So, say a boy that likes pink, or a boy that plays with a doll, or a... Oh, fuck knows, I need more wine. They won't like it because it's feminine. They'll get bullied about it because that hobby or that preference is deemed feminine by some kind of arbitrary assigner of genders to things. and maybe that little boy child that has feminine interests and pursuits is going to be called gay or homophobic slurs by his peers. And again, that is viewing a gay man as feminine, which I've met a fair few gay dudes in my time, and I can tell you that while some of them have had a few feminine hobbies and interests, gay men are men. Gay men have their own particular brand of toxic masculinity. Gay men have their own particular social norms and subcultures and things that are acceptable and things that are not, and gay men are men. So calling someone who likes feminine things gay just doesn't make sense in my head. Your bisexuals and your pansexuals and all that, yeah, like I can't even begin to analyse you lot, of which I am actually one of you, so, you know, whatevs. But yeah, toxic masculinity is the thing that will... In my video about Sean Connery, the interview in which he said it was alright to slap a woman, he specifically said you wouldn't slap a woman like you'd slap a man. You know, you slap her with an open hand on the face. It's a really fucked up version of chivalry. Like, if you're going to hit a woman, you need to do it a bit more gently. That's toxic masculinity. I'm just going to read Carl's comment here. Yeah, bullying for other reasons. I mean, bullying, certainly in school years, can be for all sorts of reasons, and essentially it comes down to, do you conform with the zeitgeist of your school and your peer group? If no, you will be punished. I'm sure somewhere out there in the world there is a school that is well into boys wearing skirts and sandals, and they would probably beat up a kid that came to school wearing trousers because they're different. There's a whole subset of child psychology which talks about, you know, how children form identities and they form groups, and they do all this when their brains haven't fully finished forming. So children are basically tiny sociopaths. They have sort of limited concept of the emotional damage they can cause each other, which I was going to say it's unfortunate, but it's not. It's just how kids are. The point is that we as adults are supposed to be able to teach them that that's not what you're supposed to do. No, kids are brutal. I was pretty fortunate in my school years in that I wasn't bullied. I was largely just ignored. And then, like, in secondary school I was bullied a bit, but I went to the kind of secondary school where it was an all-girls school, so the whole girls shun, boys punch thing didn't really come into play, and the bullying that I got directed at me at that school was ended after a fashion, after a series of playground fights, which were violent and bloody, and actually really helped. Yeah, it was great. It wasn't great. I'm being slightly facetious, but it's just how it worked out with me. And I see a lot of my friends and male friends who I like and I would like to remain friends with at the moment. I see you using language that tells me that some part of you hates women. I see you performing your toxic masculinity. I see you performing for each other, because toxic masculinity is not a display for women. It is not a display of sexual potency and attraction. Toxic masculinity is a display for other men. It's so you all can show each other. It's so you can all show each other you know, who's the biggest man. Women don't really care about that shit. It's not really. And the women that do care about that shit have probably been conditioned by their misogynistic families that that is what they should be looking for in a man. Yeah, sorry, I was reading Lou's comment there. But yeah, I see you. You call girly things gay. You call like casual homophobia, like calling things gay. I do it myself in a slightly ironic way, and it's a terrible fucking habit, and I should get out of it. But also, I'm kind of gay, so I feel like I'm reclaiming that word for my people, which is bollocks, and I should just stop it. Really. I heard a male friend describe another male friend's movement in a combat scenario as a fruity little pirouette. People just slipping up and it's just little things like that. It's not even enough to... It's not generally enough to bother stopping and calling out, because that's the thing. If we stopped and called all of you out on every single instance of this, we would get nothing else done. Like, I have a life to live. I don't have time to go around and police everyone's fucking language use. You're all adults. And yeah, I have other things I want to be able to do with my time other than going, yeah, well, you're saying that, but by that you're saying that a man performing that action is inherently feminine, and you're saying it in an insulting tone, so that means that you actually fundamentally believe that women are lesser, and that is a good insult to level at your friend in this instance. Like, if I had to give that speech every single time someone said something slightly off colour, I'd be like, I would literally not be able to work. It's everywhere. It's in the very fabric of our society. And it's not just men that do it, women do it too, because we were all raised largely in the same general kind of cultural blob of society. Toxic masculinity is not actually something only men do. I think I touched on one of my other rants that for a woman to succeed in a world that is largely run by men, what you have to do... There's a couple of ways to do that, and one of them is to take on masculine traits and just be the most masculine as a woman. What that means is you are now performing, as a woman, toxic masculinity. Like, congratulations, you're now part of the problem. There is a YouTube channel that I quite enjoy watching, and it's called The Take. There is an episode they did recently on the Karen trope. The Karen is sort of the meme of the middle-aged woman who is disproportionately racist and always wants to speak to the manager. And they sort of go into that trope in real life and cinema and TV and things like that. And what is the Karen? What is the Karen a symptom of? The Karen is somebody who has had a very, very comfortable life because she has conformed to the societal and gender role that has been expected of her or foisted on her. And maybe she didn't actually sign up to it, but that's what she's ended up doing. And she's made that compromise and she's had a comfortable life out of it. But now something is disrupting that, which is making her lose her relative power. Because it's disrupting the people that give her relative power. It is disrupting the hierarchy, it's disrupting the patriarchy, it's disrupting the racial equality or lack thereof, and therefore her power as someone who relies on something else for her status in society is disrupted, and she takes it out on people who she feels are a threat to her. And it's a really good video. Definitely recommend watching it. The Take is a fun channel. it might make you a bit sad sometimes, but you know, anything exploring the exploring the different tropes in media and what they actually represent to our society is kind of a depressing thing to do, because every sort of popular moment, every little sort of moment of pop culture is a reflection of a society's priorities and anxieties in and of itself. What's it called? Storied, another YouTube channel that I watched, they did a whole series recently on the origin of the zombie myth, all the way from the original Haitian voodoo to the modern era, and how at every stage, every zombie resurgent it's moved quite far away from its origins in Haitian religious folk practices, and is essentially just a reflection of the things that we are anxious about as a society. Toxic masculinity sucks. Sorry, I'll actually get back on topic. I recently watched Age of Ultron, Avengers Age of Ultron, because I hadn't seen it in a while and I thought I'd give it another go because I remember liking it the least of all the Avengers films for a variety of reasons. I remember when I first watched it, there's that very, very famous scene. Spoilers, Avengers Age of Ultron, as if anyone gives a shit anymore. That much maligned scene where Black Widow and Banner are talking about the future, and she's like, "Oh, I'm a monster, I can't have children either." And I remember sort of wincing at the time, not because I thought it was a bad line, because I'm like, that didn't land quite right. She's fine. On the second watch, that scene actually felt very, very honest and very interesting, and ties up really nicely with the Hulk and Black Widow's plot towards the end of the film, where she essentially betrays Banner completely so she can try and save the day with the Hulk. And then that leads into Thor Ragnarok, with him just noping out of society in general. The thing that fucked me off about Age of Ultron on a second viewing was that one brilliant scene where they're all in the Avengers Tower and they're all a bit tipsy after the party and they're all trying to pick up Thor's hammer. And Thor's like, "Oh, yeah, no, try it. Whatever. I'm fine with it." And they all do. And Tony Stark, hero of the Marvel Universe, possibly the main character of the Avengers thus far, says, "So if I pick this hammer up, does that mean I get to rule all of Asgard?" Thor goes, "Yeah, that's exactly how that works, Tony." And Tony says, "Oh, great. Well, in that case, I'm bringing back Prima Nocta." And I didn't catch that the first time I watched Age of Ultron. Prima Nocta, for those who are unaware, is the debated practice of the local lord or king being able to shag anyone's new wife before their new husband takes them to bed. Essentially, it's state-sanctioned rape. And Tony Stark said that. Tony Stark, who we are largely supposed to be rooting for throughout this whole series, said that if he was to rule Asgard, he would bring back rape. Yes, that's a line. And it completely ruined that film for me, and it happens quite early on in the film. Not even James Spader could rescue that in my eyes. And that's the thing, it's a stupid throwaway line that's supposed to be just a bit of a love. "Oh, Tony, he's such a player, isn't he?" That's toxic masculinity. That's someone thinking that is Tony Stark thinking that it's appropriate to make a marital rape joke in front of at least 2 sexual assault survivors. I might be wrong. I think both Widow and Scarlet Witch wasn't on the team then. Whatever. And that is the screenwriters thinking, oh, I know, we'll make Tony say that. It'll be really funny because he likes sex, right? No. No, you've just turned Tony Stark, slightly morally ambiguous fuckboy that Tony Stark is. He, as far as I'm aware, is a good guy. He's the one we're supposed to be rooting for. He has his faults, but he is largely a sympathetic character, and his faults mostly just hurt himself. And you've just turned him from this kind of lovable rogue into someone that thinks it's okay to make rape jokes in public. And that's toxic masculinity, and that is the effect that has on our society, because the idea that men own women and men should be allowed these things, and the person who has sex with the most women and does the most things and picks up the biggest hammer is in charge. Like, it can all fuck off. And that's where we come back to our films and our big pop culture moments are a reflection of our values and anxieties. And maybe not in the big obvious ways. Like, I don't think anyone's actually terrified of a big blue beam to space at the moment. But as a reflection of who we are, the Marvel Universe certainly serves as an interesting reflection of our values as a society. We hate the government, we love Captain America. We don't trust the government and the surveillance and law enforcement, but we want them to be there for us to save the day. We value the rogue and the underdog, but we want them to do it by the book. And they are mostly all white men. That's, yeah. I need more wine. But yeah, it's shit like that. In every piece of popular media, there is a stupidly toxic masculine joke. There is a scene where it's implied somewhere that the two male characters who are fighting just need to whip them out and measure them, as if the size of your penis has any bearing on whether what you're saying is correct or useful. It does not. And yet, our culture uses that as a shorthand for social dominance. And it doesn't actually make any sense. Because talk to, I'm not going to say all women, but talk to the majority of women that I've ever talked to about sex, and they will tell you that average is average for a reason, and that they would rather have too small than too big. It is not about female pleasure. Yeah, Tony Stark is an interesting character who is essentially traumatized into saving the world. But they probably could have done that without the rape jokes. Like, people can be traumatized and not want to talk about their feelings and it not be toxic and masculine. That's okay. You know what? That's not an inherently masculine trait. Lots of women are traumatized and bottle things up and channel their anxieties into different creative pursuits. Maybe they create super weapons. Maybe they, I don't know, sew a dress. Like, there's a lot of in-betweens there. You can do someone who is traumatized and overcompensating without it being toxic and masculine. That's not to say that Tony Stark isn't toxic and masculine, because he super is. But the more interesting parts of his character and the things that make him sympathetic are not those traits, or they're just not actually that important, and he would have been just as compelling without them. They didn't really add anything to the situation other than make him relatable to teenage boys. Which is stupid, because Tony Stark is a I think he's coming up on 40 by the end of the MCU phase that we just finished. And hello, Sansa. And like Robert Downey Jr. is in his 50s, so like trying to make Tony Stark appeal to teenage boys by talking about sex is just like, what are you doing? This man shouldn't have to appeal to teenage boys. This man is at the top of his career path. He's a fucking genius and he has seen some shit. You don't need to make him out to be a teenager. He is an older, experienced man. Like, and I'm pretty sure, let's not underestimate teenage boys here at all. Teenage boys are perfectly capable of watching a nuanced portrayal of elder masculinity and not being like, oh, I didn't really relate to it because no one made a rape joke. I'm pretty sure, like, we can expect more of our teenage boys than that. Let's not pretend that teenage boys are stupid here. Teenagers in general, yeah, their brains have not finished forming, but they are actually capable of viewing a piece of media and interacting with the world. They're just not very good at decision making. Gonna oversimplify that massively. Hello, Sansa. Hi. So yeah, it's that toxic masculinity that's everywhere, and I hate it. I hate being forced to play into it. As I said, trying to get ahead as a woman, you can play into toxic masculinity and be the you can be the Madonna whore damsel in distress and allow men to patronise you to the position you want to be in. You can be the most masculine in the room and have the biggest of all the big dick energy, at which point you're just the worst. Or you can try and just fight it, which is exhausting. Sometimes I think me and any female presenting person watching this will know that sometimes you have to play the game. Sometimes you have to pretend to be slightly stupider than you are. Sometimes you have to strap your big brass balls on and go out there and duke it out with boys in their internal game of toxic masculinity and be one of the guys. Sometimes you have to do that, because if you don't do that, or at least don't know how to do that, it's sometimes very, very difficult to get shit done. This is more endemic in the business world than anything else, really. Especially in the industries that I've worked in. So I work largely, prior to my current job, I worked for a technology company based in the Northwest, whose clientele was largely a rotating roster of very interchangeable looking old white dudes and or young white entrepreneur types. Also men. And so the toxic masculinity in business is just it makes me sick, genuinely. And I was one of the faces of that company for a while, and I had to go out and I had to talk to these interchangeable white assholes. And yeah, to win business for my company, I had to play the game. I had to pretend to be a little bit stupider than I am. I had to try and hide the little twitch in my eye when they started saying slightly off-colour things. Like, it wasn't necessarily enough to call them out about it, but I'd still prefer it if they didn't talk like that. I had to occasionally be the harshest person in the room. I had to occasionally slap on my big dick energy and shout everyone down. Unfortunately, that not only makes you a huge part of the problem, it also gets you fetishized as a school mom type, which I don't particularly enjoy either. And in my current company I love from the bottom of my heart, because I've never had to pretend to be anyone other than who I am with them. which is wonderful. But again, we are in the engineering industry. That is, again, an industry of interchangeable middle-aged white dudes who often say very denigrating things about the women I work with, because unlike quite a lot of the other of our other companies that are our peers and competitors and sort of adjacent to us, we are an almost even split between men and women across most of our departments, and we are highly unusual in our industry in that regard. We're also very successful. Wonder why that is. But yeah, I remember one of my colleagues came back from a trade show once and she was fuming. She was absolutely ready to bite off the next man's head that spoke to her, because she came back from a trade show and she was just done with men the whole day. And I'm like, colleague, what's up? And she was like, men. I'm like, what happened? The moment I walked into that room, someone said, oh, the MD's sent the girls, has he? These are professional women with engineering qualifications in their 30s and 40s. They are not the girls. And the assumption that our managing director had sent the women to get attention at a male-centric trade show. No, they were sent to the trade show because that's their job and they're very good at it. Presence or absence of certain bits of genitalia are completely irrelevant. And yeah, it was a sad day, but you know, huge love to my company for never asking me to be anyone other than exactly who I am. Yes, eating the icing from the office Christmas cake is a little bit childish and a little bit rude, unless you are also taking the cake with it, or if it's not icing that's been set to one side. I can understand their point of view there. I don't know about the shamed part. Like, at my company, people have come into the kitchen to find me scraping the royal icing from the bottom of a cake tin when all the cake is gone and it's just little shards of icing left, and I've been there just like shoveling it into my face like a little cake goblin. And people have come into the kitchen and just gone, alright. And I'll be there like, nom, nom. Yeah, no, I'll be back in a minute. No one gives a shit. But I'm aware that it does make me look a little childish, and I don't care. And no one thinks I'm any worse at my job because of it, I think is the key point there. No one thinks that I am... Oh God, what? They ate the cake but not the icing. Why would you have a Christmas cake and eat the cake bit but not the icing? That's completely the wrong way around. Unless the icing was made of poison or something. I don't know, that's weird. Okay, there you go. Toxic masculinity. Being so insecure in your masculinity that you won't eat the icing on a Christmas cake. There you go. Fucking perfect. Thank you, Graham. Like, reminds me of I think it was a tweet or something I saw once about, like, men refusing to put on sunscreen because it's too girly. Like, motherfucker, you can't out-masculine the sun. Like, okay, get skin cancer, whatever. Yeah. It's just shit like that. Like, doing or not doing something will make you manly or unmanly. And that's dumb. It's really fucking stupid. Tom has made a great point. Okay, so women's soaps. I'm sure you've all noticed this. You go down the fucking bath and toiletries aisle in a supermarket, and you got the sort of women's bath and shower stuff, and it's all fruit flavours and like made with essential oils and mango and papaya and banana, and you turn to the man section and it's all different shades of gunmetal, grey and blue, and they've all got names like Turbo, Max, Sea, Grit, Engine Oil. Like, men are pathologically incapable of buying something that doesn't have blue packaging or doesn't smell like engine grease and sadness. It's fucking ridiculous. And like, again, I don't know who men are buying all of these like blue smelling cosmetics and toiletries for, because I have not met a single woman. Okay, caveat, straight men. I don't know who straight men are buying like Dove Men Plus Care, because, you know, a man can't buy an actual Dove soap because it has like a little picture of a dove on it and the font's in cursive, but the exact same shit in blue packaging with Dove Men Plus Care on it in caps is completely different. Yeah, no straight woman who likes men that I have ever spoken to has liked the smell of generic man cosmetics. Because they all, I don't know about anyone else, but they all smell the fucking same to me. They all claim to smell of like sea salt and sandalwood and something. And they all come in these grey and blue bottles, and they all smell the same. And not a single straight woman I've ever met has actually enjoyed that smell. It smells of blue and sadness, literally. Like, I would much rather have men that smelled of, I don't know, roses and mangoes and passion fruit and whatever. That's much nicer. And as a vaguely gay person, maybe I'm weird like that, but I was going to say if there's anyone straight watching here, but I'm not actually sure I know any straight women. I'm not saying, you know, out yourselves as straight. Oh, yeah, pink washing. Oh, hang on, that was a breast cancer thing. Yeah, traditionally manly products. How do you get women to buy a manly product? How would you get women to buy a disposable safety razor? Make it pink. Yeah. No. And the fact that people actually give a shit about that. So I work in marketing for an engineering company. I have... Yes, thank you, Lou. Okay, interesting point to Lou's thing there about Dove Men Plus Care shampoo. I actually use a L'Oreal LV for Men shampoo because it has a specific ingredient in it that's good for my scalp that wasn't in the woman's version. It smells faintly of apples. It's great. Maybe I'll grow a penis if I use enough of it. I don't know. Time will tell. But yeah, I don't give a shit if I use man shampoo. And no one else should either, but people do. Because the colour of the things you buy, the font your products are written in, define your place in society. And it shouldn't, and it makes me mad because it doesn't fucking matter. I am not any less of a woman for using man shampoo. I'm not any less of a woman for buying socks from the men's section of the shop. I have big feet. Apparently women aren't allowed to have feet that are bigger than size 7, so I have to buy men's. And I remember when I was a tiny girl, I was really embarrassed that I had to buy boys' trainers because the girls' ones wouldn't fit me because my feet were too big. Why? Why was I embarrassed? Because I was scared that people would find out that I was wearing boys' shoes and would bully me for it. And one of the only things I was really bullied about as a kid was the fact that I was very, very tall and kind of a confrontational bitch. And a bit of a tomboy. So being a bit blokey has been something people have said to me both with derision and with fondness over the years, and I am not a bit blokey. I'm tall and I have big feet, but I am definitely a woman. Well, yes, that's the other thing. Okay, what do you buy a generic man friend for Christmas? Good point, Veronica. Generic man, or maybe man Secret Santa in the office. What do? You go into Boots, you go for the 3 for 2 on gift boxes, and you buy whatever generic looking man thing you can find. Same with women. Go to the women's section of the 3 for 2 stuff. It's the same shit. It's just in pink or purple packaging rather than blue or grey. Like, it's so stupid. You're like, man, must like the blue thing. I have not actually taken any time to get to know this person. So rather than just buying them a gift voucher so they could buy something they actually would like or use, what I'm going to do is go and find some gendered product that will let them know that I have at the very least paid some attention as to what kind of plumbing they might have. Which, when I put it like that, is kind of creepy. Yeah, like whiskey and chocolate are good ones, but if you're buying a gift for anyone, communicate about it, because you wouldn't get whiskey for a recovering alcoholic, you wouldn't get chocolate for a diabetics. Like, just ask people, hello, what is your generic secret, what would you be pleased to receive in a generic Secret Santa that costs under £10? Like, and you just get a list of interesting things. Like, I don't know, maybe they want some plant pots, maybe they want a steak knife, I don't know. Like, there are lots of things that could fit into that category. Just talk to people, get to know them a little bit, find out what they like. Don't just put people into these boxes of man, woman, therefore they must like all of these things and disdain all of these things, and vice versa. Like, that's, it makes me so mad. Remember when I was very, very little, I fell out with my godmother and her husband because they've been asking me for months and months and months what I wanted for Christmas, and it was about when remote control cars were that big toy. They were advertised on TV all the time. It was so cool. Some of them could climb walls. Really awesome. I fucking wanted. I wanted a remote control car. And every time they asked me, I said it was this specific like model of Tyco RC car that I really wanted. Christmas Day comes around, we go over to their house to do present exchange, and I get given bright pink Barbie walkie-talkies. I was an only child. Not only was this something I didn't want, in a colour I didn't particularly care for, I also had no one to use them with. When I asked about it, my godmother, who was my Auntie Mariana, who's now since died years ago, she says, "Oh, little girls don't play with cars." Motherfucker. Why is talking to people unmanly? Why is going to somebody and saying, if someone was your Secret Santa, what kind of thing up to the value of £10 would you appreciate getting? Why is that in fact not part of a Secret Santa? Why can you not submit your name into the Secret Santa hat with a list of 5 things valued under £10 that are vaguely something you'd like, on the understanding that whoever gets your thing will get you one of those or something similar? Why is that not part of this whole experience? Why does it have to be this huge anxiety-inducing shitty bullshit where you have to guess what people like based on the gender that you've assumed that they are? Like, give people a hand, please. Jesus. There's a cat right here. Oh, I don't think you can see her on the camera, but she's here. But yes, why is talking to people unmanly? Why is using your words unmanly? Why is being direct unmanly? I would have thought that was very manly. Like, hello, I am doing this. What is your opinion on this? Is that unmanly? Is that feminine? I don't know. But, you know, society says that men don't talk about things. Society's wrong. And I really hope that anyone watching this knows better. I'm a little drunk and I've been ranting for a bit. And I think I'm now going around in circles, but in summary, toxic masculinity bad. Masculinity itself, fine, if you want. Every single male friend I have commits toxic, masculine, and misogynist microaggressions in their speech on a daily basis. I would like to remain friends with you all, and thus I don't hold it against you, but I'm also not going to spend my life calling you out, and neither is any other woman or minority, so deal with your shit, because we've got better things to do. Bye.